This is Hannibal and Piper here from the HannibalTV.com. And after watching The Lost Boys finally last night, 35 years later, at the suggestion of Rene Dupree, I'm going to do a review of it. But first, it's Sunday night when America's Funniest Home Videos used to play, and Bob Saget has passed away. So I'll cheers this to him because it's that time for my grapefruit, low calorie THC drink. So I did watch The Lost Boys on YouTube movies last night. I have never seen The Lost Boys because when it came out, I was 4 years old. And I guess I just never became interested in it. Renee asked me last night, he said, "You consider yourself a vampire? Is it from The Lost Boys?" No, I consider myself a vampire because I like to stay up all night. I love the taste of blood. I like to bite people and I love violence and I prefer dark and nighttime. But let me get into this review, and it's not going to be the best review because I have a very short attention span. And anyone that's watched a movie with me ever knows that. I either fall asleep or become preoccupied, but I'll go over it a little bit and I'll get into your questions on it. Here's the main thing that stands out to the movie for me. There's a scene towards the 10-minute mark of this movie where there is a big concert going on in Santa Clara, California, where this movie is set. And this is the big cool guy playing at the concert. He's got like a black jock strap type thing that he's wearing over top of his jeans with all these chains. He's playing the saxophone and he's all juiced up, but he's all oiled up. And I just found this interesting because this was actually considered cool in 1987. Like the way that this is presented in the movie, like this guy's the coolest guy on the planet. And like just fast forwarding now to 2022, if a guy walked out on stage dressed like this, played the saxophone, like he would not be considered cool at all. I'm not really going to get into the movie that much because you've probably all seen it. Uh, there's a mother, she loses her job. She brings her two kids to live with her father from Phoenix to Santa Clara. And there's like a group of vampires in Santa Clara. And as you can see, this is the main group of vampires. Keith Sullivan was like the lead vampire, and like they're the heels of the movie, but kind of also the cool kids of the movie. And they basically get the one son to drink some blood, and he becomes like a half vampire. And the whole basis of the movie is they gotta to kill the real vampire so the half vampire people don't become full vampires. And it turns out that the mother that moved there and was poor got a job at a video store, if you remember video stores. And the guy that ran the video store, which they were acting like was a babyface most of the movie, ended up being the head vampire. So Keith Sullivan and the video store head vampire both die, and everyone lives happily ever after. And Corey Feldman plays a comic book worker, and he's trying to help solve this whole vampire situation. And I found this picture of now and then of Corey Feldman, and boy, does he ever look different. Overall, I did not enjoy the movie. I hate to say this, and I know Gangrel likes it and Renee likes it. I'm a big fan of the 80s, and I liked like the 80s retro-ish of the movie, but I did not like the movie. I'm not a fan of the more cheesy vampire stuff. and but it wasn't a bad movie. I wouldn't say don't watch it, but I wouldn't want to watch it again. So we got a ton of comments on here. So since that's basically my recollection of everything in it. Oh, there's dogs. Piper, tell them all about it. Yeah, she says I forgot to mention that there's dogs in the movie. The head vampire guy has a dog. The dog protects his house so he can sleep during the day. And then there's another dog that's the grandfather's dog, and he plays a role in helping kill all the vampires. So Piper was a fan of the dogs, and she was barking along to it. Some RIP to Bob Saget. Mike D also loves Jason Patrick and Sleepers. Guessing that was one of the ones in there. I'm not good with celebrities. Would I interview Wendy Richter? Sure, hook me up. Let me just get another sip of this delicious THC drink. By the way, not much interesting wrestling news today. Casa says The Lost Boys is cool as hell. Well, I like the 80s feel to it, but the actual story of it, I have to say I'm sorry, I did not like it. And yeah, Casa brings up the saxophone man guy. Thoughts on mushrooms? I've never done mushrooms. I have never done mushrooms. I can already go psychotic under the right conditions. I think putting me on any psychedelic drugs other than weed is a recipe for disaster. Alexander says wrestling has more than one royal family. I don't think there's any real royal families of wrestling. If you want to talk about a classy family that has represented the sport well, there's always been issues with the wrestling families. And I'm not going to name them because I like most of them, but I don't think there's any wrestling family out there that everyone could really be proud of, because there's been so much turmoil in all the wrestling families. I think maybe the Rougeaus have had the least controversy other than the Jacques and Raymond stuff, but they weren't as big overall as some of the other families. The Harts were a big one, but they had a lot of controversy too. The Von Erichs was just tragic. Joseph says the sequel sucked. I did not even know there was a sequel. That's interesting. I will not be watching the sequel. Scott James says the sax guy is still playing and wearing those clothes to this day. He's still considered cool. I don't think he is. I'd have to see that. You would have to follow him with a candid camera and prove that to me. Wendell, will there be another Forest of Fear match? I don't know, but April 23rd in Ottawa at the Earl Armstrong Arena. The Blood Hunter is scheduled to take on Ricky Banderas, and he's also going to be in action September the 3rd at the Petawawa Civic Center. There's supposed to be another Great North Wrestling event in June. It hasn't been announced yet. Casa likes the soundtrack. Al says video stores killed the radio star. I miss video stores. I hate to say it, but I miss them because that was a hangout for us kids back in the 90s. You'd never know who you'd run into at the video store. You could have an entire different night planned, and then you go to the video store to rent a movie, and you run into a bunch of your friends, and you end up having this big adventure that you never would have had without the video store. That's just never going to happen again. Fanging and banging. I think the Blood Hunter is the only real vampire left in wrestling that's still in his prime. But unfortunately, the last time he appeared, he was a little bit too much of a vampire, had a little bit too much of a feeding, and it made international news. So there may have to be extra security at future Blood Hunter matches. John says he's going to have to take a look at it again to see if the movie still holds up. Somebody tipped me. Bill tipped me $20. Bill, I really appreciate the $20 tip. I'm working on some more interviews. I got the Warlord coming up on January the 18th, and I'm working on a bunch of others. 2022 is going to be a big year for the Hannibal TV. I got Piper back by my side. We're fanging and banging. She's a half vampire as well. She likes to show her teeth. She likes to bite. She's vicious. She's cute. She's violent. And she's all mine. Mine again. And Piper and I are taking over the internet. Piper and I are taking over the Hannibal TV, Canada, the US, Mexico. It's gonna be wonderful. 2022, the year of Piper.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates.